Today is about telling tales, so I'll start with mine. And I want to tell you that the major focus of this tale is going to be the perception of what I thought having a disability would be versus what it actually is. So I was 21 when I was injured by somebody who was drinking and driving. And just like all the stories you hear, laying in the hospital, the doctor comes in and says, I got bad news for you, your spine's severed, you're never going to walk again. Spinal cord's completely cut, no chance. Doctors don't come into your room wanting to give you bad news, right? But we have this false narrative we're given. And we're given this narrative that if you're strong enough, if you're tough enough, if you believe enough, if you pray enough, whatever have you, if you do it enough, you'll return to, quote, normal. And I have to admit that I subscribed to that for probably a little bit longer than I should have. And like everyone else who saw the narrative online, that if you do it enough, you're going to get better. If you do enough, you're going to get better. And I'll tell you a little bit about the day I realized that that was just total garbage. Wait a minute, we're in the UK now. Total rubbish. So at the time, I was still living in Florida. Has anyone here been to Florida? Okay, you love the wildlife, right? So I grew up in a place where I swam with gators, I swam with turtles, snakes, didn't matter. There's giant spiders, lizards, disgusting flying cockroaches that get into everything. None of that terrified me as much as the dreaded, terrorizing tree frog. And let me explain something. So at the time, I did not have an accessible vehicle. So what I would do is I would transfer into the car, and someone else would take my chair apart, put it in the trunk. Same thing in reverse. So I'm sitting in the car one day, and just 2 inches of green and white terror lands on the dashboard. And I am sitting in the car, and I had some words go through my brain I'm not allowed to say. And it just stopped, and it turned and started to look at me with his red eyes, right? And I knew my life was in jeopardy. And I had to get away. So my brain, what was left of it at that second, told my legs, go. And I went. And I think my brain forgot I was paralyzed because the signal didn't get through, and I remember hitting the sidewalk, and I remember my father going, "What the hell are you doing?" And it was at that time I realized that this idea of mind over body is BS. If there was ever going to be a day I was going to walk, it would have been that day. But I didn't walk, I didn't run, I didn't stand. But I'll tell you what I did start to do after that. I started to adapt. And I think one of the problems in our society is we don't give enough credit to people who adapt to life change. If you didn't beat something, like you didn't beat cancer, there's a connotation there that you failed somehow. But I think adapting is harder, especially in a place where, at least for me, society is very inaccessible. A lot of people are very unaccepting. So I think we need to change that narrative